has taken over. Let's go. It's Ferrall. Coast to coast. Steaks, chicks, stacks. You and I are going to make a lot of money. It's Ferrall, coast to coast.
And we are back for El Coast to Coast, hour number 3 here on SportsGrid and SportsGrid Radio. Carver High and Joe Lisi in for Scotty. Great to have everybody with us. Big final hour here. We got to get to tonight's NBA. We've got a lot of college basketball tonight as well. Several things actually to do in the NBA this hour. So very, very busy. That's for sure. Of course, Joe is with me every Tuesday and Wednesday here on Coast to Coast, the extended version of the highly popular SportsGrid radio show, Carver and Lisi, which you hear nightly at 8 p.m. East here on the radio side. And Joe, tonight, I'll even promote it now. I mean, it's a Rick Haro Tuesday on Carver and Lisi tonight. Yeah. So I'm going to ask him why he didn't get you a meal last week out in Vegas. No meal from Rick for you. I mean, at least you saw him. Scotty was saying yesterday to him, he didn't even say hello to him. So at least he said hi to you. So Rick was very busy. I took a couple of
pictures. He got me a free coffee at the convention center.
Good.
Like, so, it was free for everybody, but he gave me a cup.
Could have went and got you a bottle of red or something like that. Could have did a little bit more. Maybe.
Bottle of red. I mean, you're asking a lot from Ricardo there.
Why not? He get you involved. Get involved, Joe. When you're out there.
Get alligator arms. I don't know. We'll talk to him about it tonight. We'll see.
We'll talk to him tonight as he's finally come home. He's very, very happy from the trip that he had out there in Vegas. I do have a few other NFL things for you, Joe. I actually spent a lot of time with Davis talking about the draft because, Davis loves the draft. He loves betting on the draft. He loves getting ready for the draft, all of those things. But I wanted to throw those things to you as well today because I need to try to at least give you a few nuggets and morsels of football, every day between now and August, just to keep it in your blood, Joe. I don't want you to get too upset.
This is going to be hard.
Have football going. We do welcome in all of our radio affiliates first for El Coast to Coast here on a Tuesday. Carver High and Joe for Scotty, SportsGrid Radio, Sirius XM, Channel 159 at Sports Byline. Great to have you with us. All right, Joe, so number 1 pick, it's been Caleb Williams. Now it's minus 1,800, minus 1,200, minus 900. 12 today, Joe, for the minus for him. I was saying to Davis, I'll say it to you, I've seen some of the draft people who are already starting to, now that Super Bowl's over, they got to churn out all the draft content, talking about how, well, you got to look at the tape real close. It's not a slam dunk that he should be the first pick. It shouldn't be this, shouldn't be that. You got no concerns, right, Joe, about him being the top pick in this draft?
I do. And I've talked about it at length during the college season. He didn't step up against the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. He was turnover prone. Certainly didn't play his best football down the stretch. Played well against Washington, but couldn't put out a ball game against Oregon. I have concerns. I really do. I think if it was me and I'm making the first overall pick, my guy is Jaden Daniels. I've said it before. I'll say it again. I think he's the best NFL prospect out of the quarterbacks. I'm not sold on Drake May. Why? Why not Drake May? Well, how has Sam Howell and Mitch Trubisky done in the league, right? And what did Drake May do against elite competition down the stretch where North Carolina fell off a cliff? But he had no wide receivers. Oh, you think Justin Fields has wide receivers in Chicago? That's the knock against him. So can we stop with the bashing of we make exceptions for certain quarterbacks, and then with other quarterbacks we want to knock them down? So for me, it's Jaden Daniels. I would go Daniels 1, Caleb Williams 2, and then take your pick on the rest of the mix.
So you think that he should go first?
I do.
You think that Williams second. Meanwhile, obviously, everybody has Williams 1, okay, May 2, and then May right now, Joe, as you see right there, for the second overall pick, is the favorite. He's minus 175 now for that. But that gap's a lot closer, Joe. I got Jaden Daniels 2-1 to be the number 2 pick there. And New England's kind of like, we were just saying, that swing pick, right? Because they could take a third quarterback they could take Marvin Harrison Jr. I said they could take Marvin Harrison Jr. and then maybe trade back up in the first round in the 20s if somebody falls, whether that's Penix or Nix or McCarthy. If you like any of those guys, everybody says he's not going to fall that far, but there's other options there, Joe, if you're New England at 3.
There are. I mean, Bill has drafted a lot of LSU talent. You know, back in the day, Ridley, he took a shot on Keyshawn Booty in the 7th round. That obviously didn't work out well. So he is familiar with the LSU and SEC type of, contingencies. So, would he go with Drake May? I don't believe he will. I don't think he goes with Drake May. I don't know if Gerard Mayo and the crew now that's going to be running things, I don't know if they're going to be on those same lines there. I think that they're going to try to do things a lot different. Think about what Bill did. They're from the same mold, though, Carver. I mean, it's the same group. Here's the thing. I can tell you this right now. Gerard Mayo's a player's guy. If you're telling me in regards to breaking down, Daniels, right? Daniels has stepped up well, played dominant against Alabama. I mean, if he doesn't get hurt, he could potentially put up, 500 total yards of offense? He rushed for 150 on them. So, I mean, he stepped up against elite competition. The problem that I have with Caleb Williams, and this comes down to the same thing, in big matchups, he played good. He didn't play elite, lights out. He didn't this year. Notre Dame, he was 3 turnovers. He was running for his life in multiple games at the end of the regular season and was inconsistent on throws. So, I didn't see the same dominant player that he was just a couple of years ago. So, and I go back to Belichick because the reason why I say that is Mayo, yes, he's his own entity now, but he's still cut from the same mold. All those guys are that coach and play under Bill. That's why half of them haven't done well in the league.
We shall see, Joe. I'm very interested to see if all 6 of those quarterbacks do go in the first round. That would be a heavy quarterback first round if all 6 of those guys.
Let me ask you this, Carver. Do you like Drake May? Because I don't. We bet on him multiple times. I mean, come on. Did you like what you saw in terms of the last 4 games of the regular season? Not once, but twice now. They tailed off.
I wouldn't feel comfortable. I wouldn't get excited if my team was drafting him with the 1st or 2nd pick in the draft.
Would you get excited? Would you get excited with Jaden Daniels?
I personally would feel better about Jaden Daniels. That's me. I'd feel better about Jaden Daniels. That would be my guy, and I kind of lean with you. I think I would take him first. I know that we're in the minority. Right. Obviously,
I know
we are, but I would probably take him first. That's just kind of where I lean, Joe. All right, we got a lot more to do. Plenty of NBA this hour. We got big college slate later this hour that we're going to talk about as well. Some sizzle plays for Joe in college hoops tonight that I can't wait to hear about. Ferrall Coast to Coast on a Tuesday. Carver, Ryan, Joe for Scotty. We're back on the grid right after this.
$200 million in the state of New York in sports betting, half of that going to the state. All thumbs up, I guess, across the board here, right?
Yeah, New York just continues to be the standard bearer for the industry. People are betting a ton on NFL. We've still got March Madness coming up. This is really the prime time for the U.S. sports calendar with the NFL playoffs, Super Bowl, and then college basketball, NBA, NHL in full swing.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Nikola Jokic is the best player in the NBA until proven otherwise. Like, you have that guy on your team, you win 50 games, it's really that simple.
There is voter fatigue, and I think that is the only thing you have to be careful about when you deal with the NBA is there voter fatigue in regards to who should win the MVP? When you look at the odds, and obviously you get, no Halliburton.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Blocked well and tries to cut through the middle. Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Scoring 19.7 points per game, 13.1 rebounds, and 8.2 assists. How can a center that is top 50 in scoring, first in rebounding, 7th in assists, and 8th in field goal percentage not make the All-Star team? That is such a huge snub for Domantas Sabonis.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
That's been to a sporting event. The atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
And we're back. Ferrall Coast to Coast here on a Tuesday. Carver High and Joe Lisi in for Scotty. SportsGrid Radio. And away we go. All right, Joe. 3 other things that I just wanted to get to, and then we're going to get into the NBA, I promise. First, there's been all this chatter in the Philadelphia area this morning that Hassan Reddick is requesting a trade from the Eagles. He went on social media and said that's not true at all. We do think, obviously, we've seen major shakeup already, Joe, with the coaching staff. For Philadelphia, offensive and defensive side of the ball, going to have 2 brand new coordinators, experienced coordinators that will be in there. But now we'll start to see if, as we get into the player movement section of the offseason, what happens there. Reddick, excellent 2 years ago, Joe. Obviously not as good this year, but who was in Philly?
No, you're right. I mean, he definitely stepped up. I mean, one of the best players on that defense, an edge rusher, and we'll have to see how it plays out. I mean, He could test the free agent market, and we'll see. I mean, what team do you think wants him the most? I mean, that is going to be the biggest question, and how much does he garner? You know, here's the problem, though, that I have with Philadelphia as a whole. If they do, in fact, lose him, how do you recover, his productivity? He did tail off at the end of the regular season. And that young talent for Georgia that we saw dominate in the first half of the season, Carver, they tailed off as a group as a whole. Hopefully, they could turn it around, right? Vic Fangio, maybe he could turn it around there in Philly with Sirianni.
Very possible. You get Vic Fangio in there. As we know, Joe, he loves why win games 40-10 when you can lose them 13-10.
Well, he's all right as a coordinator. He didn't help out the Dolphins too much in his second stint, but, we'll see how he does in Philly now.
We will see that indeed. All right, Joe, next. Have you seen this Brandon Ayuk stuff that's gone on since the Super Bowl the other night? So Ayuk put out some strange social media post about leaving San Francisco. Then his brother and his girlfriend also hinted that he could be leaving San Francisco. Now he's entering the final year of his rookie deal. So his cap hit is going to jump to 14, but he's not signed beyond this coming season. So he's in that long-term deal area, Joe, where you need to start deciding what are you going to do with this guy. Then today at, I guess, breakup day, he was asked directly, do you want to still be a Niner? And he said, quote, if it's the right move. Sounds like maybe, Joe, could be a pretty decent wide receiver possibly available on the trade market.
Well, think about how they utilized him in regards to the game plan. And this is part of the reason why I was very critical of Kyle Shanahan. And people will say he came out of the halftime throwing 8 of 9 times. Yeah, great. That's great. But every throw was short to intermediate. You failed to develop and design plays to get your biggest playmaker in regards to the passing attack, Brandon Ayuk, involved in the passing game. I mean, Brandon Ayuk had 7 games this year where he had 100 yards receiving. It wasn't Deebo Samuel. It was Brandon Ayuk that was your biggest deep threat in regards to the Super Bowl, and they failed to utilize him. You know, so what did he have? 3 or 4 receptions for 49 yards? I mean, that's terrible when you think about it. The fact that Kittle and Ayuk were not involved in the vertical passing game in any capacity was a testament to just how Shanahan called that game.
It certainly was. So we'll see what happens. That will be something to monitor with the 49ers as we start the offseason. And finally, yesterday, Steelers released Mitch Trubisky. But there was that report, Joe, from Schefter that Mike Tomlin loves Justin Fields, kind of basically dropping the breadcrumbs that maybe that's another team that we could look to if the Bears do ultimately decide, which everybody kind of thinks they're going to, that they're going to trade him and go with Caleb Williams at the top. Fields in Steelers. Now, that's weird from this aspect, Joe. They bring in Arthur Smith. They obviously love running it as it is. That'll be a lot more running it, I guess, if you have Fields at the quarterback.
It's going to be, I mean, you're not helping his development in any capacity with Arthur Smith. And think about this, Arthur Smith couldn't coach up Des Ridder for that regard, and he's this similar quarterback in regards to mobile and can move outside the pocket, and he didn't utilize or devise a game plan to his strengths. I love Justin Fields. I think he's definitely a quarterback that can produce in the right scheme, but they have to open it up, and they have to call a game plan around Justin Fields' strengths. So not sure what they do. I mean, here's the problem. So now Justin Fields is Mitch Trubisky 2.0, right? So he's this journeyman quarterback that just can't cut it in the league because Eberflus and Getsy, railroaded his career. That's great. That's wonderful.
Yeah. I don't know, Joe. I don't know if it's necessarily Mitch Trubisky 2.0.
No, but is he going to have an opportunity to start Carver, or is it Kenny Pickett? Like that's the problem. So he's going there to what? To compete with Kenny Pickett or be the guy?
You see, it's an interesting point, Joe. You're right, because I think if you traded for him, I don't think you could keep Kenny, right? I mean, if you trade him there, isn't he got to be your starter? Doesn't he have to be the guy that's in there?
You would think. There's definitely a lot better playmakers. I'm sorry. George Pickens, Deontay Johnson, you have Freiermuth, you have Najee Harris and Jalen Warren. They have playmakers, much better playmakers than the Chicago Bears. Because outside of DJ Moore, they have nobody. And Cole Kmet is good. He's not elite.
I'll say this, Joe, and I know they're not going to probably do this, and you probably agree with me. I'd keep Fields. I'd move back 2, 3, 4 spots, get some more picks. Maybe if you could get Harrison Jr. at that point, I don't know, maybe with 3, 4, whatever that's going to be. You put Marvin Harrison Jr. with Fields. You still have the other pick at 10 that maybe you even get. You want to go double wide receiver, Joe? You want to get Neighbors too? You want to go double wide out? Or maybe you take a great defensive player also? I think there's a path to the Bears being a lot better, a lot quicker by keeping him and adding 2 really big pieces with those top 10 picks around him, as opposed to dealing him and starting over with Williams. That's just kind of where I think they get better a lot quicker.
They're trying to get Caleb Williams to get where Justin Fields is now. Now, people think Caleb Williams is going to hit the ground running. Okay, we'll see if he could do what C.J. Stroud did. I doubt it. I think Stroud was that quarterback that really showcased that. He's a different – and Stroud was not was mobile, but he did his damage inside the pocket. That was the difference between Stroud and everybody else. He was a pure pocket passer. Not to suggest Caleb isn't. It's just that Caleb, when, sometimes when he improvises, he throws the ball into double coverage and he forces throws sometimes, and that's a problem on the next level.
It certainly is, Joe. So there you go. We're ready for the football offseason. The rumor mill will start to fly. We have a lot of NBA to do, Joe. We'll come back. I'll probably play you just one or two of these clips from last night, especially, I don't know, Joe, if you saw, we were off the radio at that point. I don't know if you saw that foul that they called on Brunson at the end of the Knick Rocket game. Just absolutely embarrassing at the finish. And then the ref said afterwards that it shouldn't have been a foul. Well, thanks a lot after the fact, telling us that maybe it should have been a foul. They should have been playing overtime. So we'll go through that and a few of the other games last night. And then we have a few games tonight, Joe. 6 games, including Oklahoma City in Orlando, Miami's in Milwaukee, who's maybe starting to get some things going, and Sacramento is in Phoenix tonight to take on the Suns, that's like a typical Joe Lisi over type of game right there. When Sacramento and Phoenix get together, Joe's going up, up, up and away when he sees those two.
Sacramento, yeah, well, we'll see who steps up for Phoenix tonight. Let's hope. Is it Bradley Beal tonight?
No, it's probably Durant for 35, Joe. Alted for 35 for it's Durant. Possible. That's going to be the guy. We'll do all the NBA when we come back. Ferrall Coast to Coast on a Tuesday. Carver High and Joe Lisi in for Scotty on SportsGrid and SportsGrid Radio. All the NBA next on the grid.
$200 million in the state of New York in sports betting, half of that going to the state. All thumbs up, I guess, across the board here, right?
Yeah, New York just continues to be the standard bearer for the industry. People are betting a ton on NFL. We've still got March Madness coming up. This is really the prime time for the U.S. sports calendar with the NFL playoffs, Super Bowl, and then, college basketball, NBA, NHL in full swing.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Nikola Jokic is the best player in the NBA until proven otherwise. Like, you have that guy on your team, you win 50 games, it's really that simple.
There is voter fatigue, and I think that is the only thing you have to be careful about when you deal with the NBA is there voter fatigue in regards to who should win the MVP? When you look at the odds, and obviously you get, no Halliburton.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Scoring 19.7 points per game, 13.1 rebounds, and 8.2 assists. How can a center that is top 50 in scoring, first in rebounding, 7th in assists, and 8th in field goal percentage not make the All-Star team? That is such a huge snub for Domantas Sabonis.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
That's been to a sporting event. The atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the game starts so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
And we are back for El Coast to Coast here on a Tuesday. Carver High, Joe Lisi in for Scotty on SportsGrid and SportsGrid Radio. All right, Joe, just a couple things from last night. First, T-Wolves beat the Clippers out in L.A. They are number one in the West. That's a couple really good wins for them in a row. Remember, they killed the Bucks. Then they beat the Clippers. So nice job by Minnesota, and they're going to be playing again tonight, so we'll talk about them in a moment. The Rockets and the Knicks. So I'll set this up for you, Joe. Knicks were down most of this game. Brunson had a huge second half. They get the game tied. Rockets have the ball. Final seconds. And here's what we had on MSG.
Seconds to go. 5 seconds to go. Green on the drive. Gets inside. Reverse block by Achua. They throw it up at the buzzer. Almost went in, but a foul. A foul called on Jalen Brunson. The Knicks are stunned. Now the officials are going to look at it. They have to because it was the final shot.
Yeah, but here's the problem, of course, Breen there on MSG, Joe. They weren't looking to see whether it's a foul or not. That's not what they're looking at at that moment. They're looking to see if he was fouled before the clock hit 0. He was not, or at least what they thought was a foul. And they end up making the free throws, and the Rockets win the game, Joe. The crew chief, of course, afterwards then, Malloy, whatever his name is, said afterwards, we got that one wrong. It shouldn't have been a foul. Knicks did not have their challenge to use at that spot because they used it in the first half. All in all, Joe, that's a tough way to go. And me and Coach were talking about it earlier, and I'm sure you saw the play as well. When it's tied like that, and it's the final seconds of the game, for you to call a foul there, I mean, you got to run the guy over at that point. I mean, you got to run the guy over to call a foul in a tie game in that kind of a spot. That was a bad job by those refs. Real bad job.
Yeah, you got to let them bang. I mean, I don't understand the problem. We talk about officiating in NBA and NFL in that type of situation where the Knicks were dead and buried with 2 minutes left. They come fighting from behind, and you don't want to give them an opportunity to win in an overtime. It's terrible.
Bad job all around. The Warriors beat the Jazz 129-107. Warriors have been playing very well now for the last few weeks. Clay had a big night, Joe. I hope you got in on that. Curry had, I think, 4 threes in the fourth to shut the door. Draymond said his suspension has helped fuel the Warriors' hot streak. I guess that's one way to think about it, Joe. Him getting suspended woke the Warriors up, I guess, if that's how you like to think. The Hornets did end up beating the Pacers. We were talking about this Hornet-Pacer game when we were on the radio last night. Hornets did end up closing them out, 111-102. The Sixers ended up beating the Cavs as well. Bulls beat the Hawks. The Spurs beat the Raptors 122-99. Now, normally, Joe, I wouldn't give the time of day to a game like this with these two teams, but when a dude gets a triple-double with 10 blocks, we'll give him a little bit of gas here on Coast to Coast. Wembanyama on Valley Sports San Antonio.
Grady Dick feeling Victor Wembanyama. Airball the layup, and then Victor gets the 10th block right there. The triple-double in blocks for Victor Wembanyama. Wow. And Victor finishes it off.
He's fun to watch, Joe, there's no doubt. But for me personally, it drives you nuts trying to play him on a night-to-night basis, because for every night like that, where you look at the stat sheet and you're going, whoa, triple-double, 10 blocks, points, hitting threes, doing all these things. Then you go to him the next night and you're like, all right, let me play him for double-double, let me play him for threes. And then he's got 13, 7, and 2. It's just the swings, Joe, of maybe trying to play his props are a little bit too much for me, as fun as he is to watch.
The ebbs and flows of Wemby, huh? He's got a wingspan like a dinosaur back in the day, just glides down the field like a pterodactyl. He's just gliding down, grabbing bounds, taking threes. facilitating ball movement. He's just so good, isn't he?
He's so good. He's just so good, Joe. I mean, there's really not more that you could say there. He is so good. Also last night, the Bucks beat the Nuggets 112-95. So the Bucks have started to maybe win a couple games here with Doc, and the Mavs beat the Wizards 112-104. Didn't cover. They had themselves a hard time with that one. All right, usually, Joe, I give you odds to win the East right now, but instead I will highlight what the Knicks have done recently. Despite the loss last night to Houston, Joe, they are very much in the mix here for the Eastern Conference. If we take a look here, right now they were 16-1 to open, 9-1 last week, plus 650 now. 37% of the money, the most, is on the Knicks to win the East. They are currently sitting fourth in the conference. Are you buying or selling here, Joe, with the Knicks?
Selling. It's the Knicks. Come on. As good as your guy Brunson's playing and everyone else, I can't buy into the Knicks right here. If they get into the playoffs and they have a good seed, then maybe I'll buy in because of the matchup is favorable, but I can't buy into them right now.
The Bucks are plus 210. The Celtics are plus 120 right now, is where they are with the East. On the West side of things, Joe, in terms of the odds to win the West, there you have them right there. Nuggets plus 210. The Clippers are plus 240. Then the Suns, 750. Thunder, Timberwolves. Then it gets a little deeper, Joe, after that with the Mavs, Lakers, etc., etc. I want to take the Clippers, Joe, although we've missed so many good numbers with the Clippers at this point. But I just don't know if I'm going to be able to fully trust them when we get into the serious games in April and May. I just don't know if I can trust them.
Want to take the Lakers? Want to take a shot?
No.
Who do you want to take?
You can't even sell me on that one, Joe. There's absolutely no way that you can sell me.
You like the Kings?
I like the Kings, but can they really beat all these teams? Like, maybe one of them. Can they beat three of them in the playoffs? I don't think so. How about the Timberwolves or the Thunder? Can you get behind either of them? T-Wolves or Thunder? Or
Carl Anthony Towns and your guy Anthony Edwards. Every time I bet Edwards, it's a dead under. You realize that? I mean, 26.5, 24
Do me
and a half.
a favor,
Every
then.
time
Let me know next time you're going to play him, so that I could bet the under. If every time you bet him it's a dead under, tell me the next time you're playing Ann Edwards so that I could bet the under, Joe. Please, that's all that I need. The best and the worst against the spread as we hit the All-Star break this weekend. By the way, All-Star break for the NBA, as they will be in Indiana. Magic 35-18 against the number. Thunder 32-20-1. They play each other tonight, Joe. So the two best teams against the spread meet in Orlando. I'll give you the number in a moment. Sixers, Jazz, Pelicans, and Knicks also the best. On the worst side, there they are, the Hawks, Joe, still 17-37 against the spread. Hornets, Bucks, Suns, Nuggets, and Lakers as well amongst the worst teams against the number.
Let's take I like the Thunder tonight. Thunder and Magic are playing. Let's take the Thunder.
You
love the Thunder.
All right.
Thunder.
I will give you those. I have those numbers for you, Joe, in a moment. Best over and under. Sixers and the Hawks, the most overs so far this year. The most unders are the Nuggets and the Heat, Joe. Of course, the two teams that played in the NBA Finals last year. The most unders. Nuggets, Heat, Knicks, Clippers, Grizzlies, Blazers.
Look at that. Look at the Blazers, man. The Blazers, huh? Best under 29-23. The Heat and Jimmy B's let me down. I might have to start taking their overs. Rozier, Butler, what do you think?
You love this Rozier, man. I mean, you can't let that guy go ever. You love backing this guy. I wouldn't do it tonight, Joe. It could be in a little bit of a trouble for them in Milwaukee as they get it ready to take on the Bucks. But we will go to that now. Let's start tonight's games, and then we'll finish them on the other side. How about the Celtics in Brooklyn against the Nets tonight? Celtics minus 8.5. They're the road favorite. 227.5 is the total. I'm probably laying it, Joe, with the Celtics here. The Nets have been very tough to figure at home. They're not winning games, period. Let's just say that. The Nets don't win, bottom line. But then you start to get into the number side of things, and it's very Jekyll and Hyde with them. I'm probably going to lay it, Joe, with the Celtics.
I would take the Celtics. I like the over in the matchup, though. Give me the over in terms of the ball game. I mean, I don't want to lay it. I'd rather take the total and jump on some props tonight. So give me the over in the matchup.
The Thunder and the Magic, as I said, are getting together in Orlando tonight. The two best teams against the spread so far this year. Thunder minus 2.5 on the road, 233.5 the total. Retiring Shaq's number in Orlando tonight, too, Joe. First number getting retired by the Orlando Magic franchise, number 32.
No Penny Hardaway either? A little Penny in there? You think? No Penny?
Memphis, I believe, is off tonight. Maybe Penny will be there. Maybe that's possible, Joe. He could be there for the festivities.
I'm going to lay it with OKC and take the over, like I said. I'm not buying into the Magic tonight.
I like the over, Joe. These Oklahoma City overs have been pretty good. I'm on it for the over 233.5. I'll sneak one more in. Miami's in Milwaukee tonight. I saw they had some travel issues, Joe, getting in. The Heat are getting 8.5. 223.5 the total. The Bucks, of course, have coming off a couple of big smashings against the Hornets and the Nuggets last night.
I'm going to take the Heat with the 7. Is it 7 right now? Give me the Heat.
8.5, Joe. Up to 8.5.
Even better
in this game.
I'll take the Heat plus the 8.5.
I'm going to lay it, Joe. I'm laying it. I'm on the train. I think Milwaukee's back. They figured it out the last couple nights. They're going to get things cooking here tonight against the Heat. We'll finish the NBA. A lot of college to do as well. Coast to coast. We're back after this.
$200 million in the state of New York in sports betting, half of that going to the state. All thumbs up, I guess, across the board here, right?
Yeah, New York just continues to be the standard bearer for the industry. People are betting a ton on NFL. We've still got March Madness coming up. This is really the prime time for the U.S. sports calendar with the NFL playoffs, Super Bowl, and then, college basketball, NBA, NHL in full swing.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Nikola Jokic is the best player in the NBA until proven otherwise. Like, you have that guy on your team, you win 50 games, it's really that simple.
There is voter fatigue, and I think that is the only thing you have to be careful about when you deal with the NBA is there voter fatigue in regards to who should win the MVP? When you look at the odds, and obviously you can't, no Halliburton.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has backs in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Scoring 19.7 points per game, 13.1 rebounds, and 8.2 assists. How can a center that is top 50 in scoring, first in rebounding, 7th in assists, and 8th in field goal percentage not make the All-Star team? That is such a huge snub for Domantas Sabonis.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
That's been to a sporting event. The atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the game starts so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
And we are back for El Coast to Coast here on a Tuesday. Carver High and Joe Lisi in for Scotty. SportsGrid Radio. Great to have you with us. We got some great news from BetMGM. And what are they doing? How about giving away free money? Are you kidding me? Yes, that's precisely what they're doing. Especially when you place your first BetMGM Sportsbook wager through the app for at least $5. Why? You'll receive $150 instantly in additional winnings, regardless of your wager's outcome. All right, so what do we got to do here? How about download the BetMGM Sportsbook app on iOS or Android, or visit BetMGM.com. Sign up and deposit at least $5 into your newly created account. Place a wager in the amount of at least $5 at standard odds price. Once you have placed a bet, you will receive $150 in bonus bets regardless of the outcome of your wager. You got to use bonus code SG150 for this. That is SG150. BetMGM giving away free money. Go get involved. There's plenty happening this week between the hoops, the hockey, the golf. Big scene at Riviera for the Genesis Tigers tournament in the mix this week. A lot of golf tomorrow here on C2C, a Golf Wednesday with both Cam and Keith Stewart as we give you the picks. We're coming off a big weekend with Nick the Dentist Taylor, 90-1 first-round leader. Picked him up live at 18-1 on Sunday during the fourth round before he got his victory. So we are hot with the golf, Joe, heading into Riviera this weekend for Tiger's big event, final tournament on the West Coast before they head to Mexico next week for that tournament and then off to Florida. So golf's in the full swing. All right, Joe, 3 more games for you in the NBA. Joe's got some picks for the golf, too. Tomorrow. Who'd you like, Joe? You took somebody 200-1 last night.
350-1. I forgot now.
350. You had the last guy on the board, I think. You scrolled all the way to the bottom of the 70 golfers and took the guy who was at the longest odds. Sacramento is in Phoenix tonight against the Suns. Suns minus 4.5, and our high total of the night, Joe, 244.5 for the Kings and the Suns.
I'm taking the Kings, Carver. I don't believe in the Suns as a whole, and I certainly don't believe in this, Kevin Durant and Booker when you count on them. We know that, right? So I'm going to take the money with the Kings. I'm going to take the 4.5, and I'm going to pick on some props. I'm not going to do Fox tonight, I can tell you that. Maybe is it a little Malik Monk tonight? A little Malik Monk?
Maybe it is, Joe. Just the over for me. Over 244.5. I think last night was 242, 243 for us last night. Just over, Joe. I don't want to worry about who wins this game. Give me a nice, clean, 142, 125 game in Phoenix tonight, and I'll be very, very happy. Minnesota off the win in L.A. against the Clippers are in Portland tonight. Minus 7.5 for the T-Wolves, 212.5. So the other side of the spectrum here, Joe, I told you Portland has played some of the most unders this year so far. And you've got Minnesota's second night of a back-to-back. I think, Joe, maybe we catch them a little sleepy. They'll win the game, but give me the under 212.5.
I'm under the 212.5. I'll take the points again. I feel very shaky laying those type of numbers in terms of the NBA. So I'm going to take the points, and I'm with you, the under. I see more of a half-court game in terms of that matchup, Carver.
Yep, Portland probably going to slow them down a little bit. And finally, Joe, the Pistons are in L.A. against the Lakers tonight. This is a late tip, 10:40 East, out at the Crypto. Now, this road trip for Detroit, Joe, actually has been pretty good. They won outright in Sacramento and in Portland, and they covered a very big number in L.A. over the weekend against the Clippers. Another big number here, 10.5 for the Pistons, 241.5 the total. I said earlier, the birthday roll call. Jaden Ivey's birthday tonight, and he's been pretty hot lately. I think we go a little Ivy props tonight for the Pistons, Joe.
I'm actually going to take the 12.5 for the points with the Pistons tonight. I actually
10.5.
10.5. I like the over in this matchup as well. I think they could get into the 260s. 241 is the total. I think they could blow right through that number tonight.
Now, you weren't completely wrong, Joe, because when we did the radio last night, it was 12. When we did the Carver and Lisi show last night, we did those first look at the lines. It was 12.5, so it's gone down a couple points since then. I lean the Pistons in this one, Joe, with the 10.5, but we're going to sprinkle some props in there with Ivy along the way. I'll look at those more, Joe, when we do radio tonight, since that game doesn't tip till even after we finish that. We'll take a look at some stuff for the Lakers and the Pistons. There you go. Your night in the NBA, 6 games. All right, we got college rack, Joe. First, how about the system play last night? Texas Tech with the win in Lubbock against Kansas, 79-50. They blew them out, Joe. In fact, did you know Bill Self has been the head coach at Kansas for 21 years. Wow. And last night was the first time ever he got the gate tossed, Joe, by the refs. Here's Self afterwards.
I didn't curse him. I didn't yell. But I did say a magic word, I guess, multiple times. That got me a couple of technicals. I really wasn't trying to get thrown out. But the way things went the game, I honestly feel the game's not being called the way it needs to be called, regardless if it's our favor or their favor. It makes no difference to me. I don't feel like the game's being officiated the way it's intended to be officiated. So that was frustration, but I felt that all year. So, and good officials, good officials is just, I just don't see it the same way that it's being called at all.
Well, look, Joe, I can understand. Look, he's never been thrown out of a game before, so he's never pulled that out of his playbook trying to get thrown out. I mean, they got ran last night.
Years he's been there, huh? 21.
Yeah.
Remember when he was with the Illini?
Yeah. That's right, baby. All right, Joe. It might have been 21 years. I'll have to look at that, Joe. They had that number with the 21 years. That might be combined as a head coach, Illinois and Kansas.
All right.
We might have to. Now, it was under the Kansas notes as in 21 years as a Kansas coach, but you just made that note, and that probably is right. That's probably Illinois and Kansas combined with the 21 years. He hasn't been thrown out of a game. Either way, apples or oranges, Joe. We're just Kansas. How about that? From unbelievable. Wow. He has been there. He has been there that long, Joe.
It is shocking.
It kind of is.
Remember him winning with those Big Ten days. He's had a great run. Obviously, won a national championship.
Yes.
I mean, great head coach, and he might be laughing. I'm just saying, because I don't watch basketball that religiously, though, Carver. That you say how long was he there? 21 years is a very long time.
Yeah, it's a very, very long time. Let's get to tonight, Joe. Let's go to the window here with a few of these games. I'm hoping that you have some sizzle plays for me in college hoops. And I'll start with the early Big East tip at the Butler Fieldhouse at Hinkle, where Marquette comes in. Now, remember, Joe, Butler beat Marquette at their place a couple of weeks ago. So you got a little bit of a revenge spot here. Marquette now -3.5 on the road. We also have North Carolina at Syracuse tonight. They're laying 8.5. Iowa State, Cincinnati. System play, Joe. System play. Cincinnati, the unranked team, favored over Iowa State at home. Michigan is at Illinois. Wolverines have been dreadful. Duquesne visiting Dayton tonight. Dayton, of course, laying the number at home.
I like Duquesne plus the points tonight. I do. And I sort of lean to Syracuse plus the points. I don't want to go against you, Carver. I sort of like Iowa State, but I'll let you. I'm not going to play it. I'll let you get the Bearcats tonight. That's the only teams that I like on that board tonight. My heart tells me Michigan. My heart tells me Michigan, but they are
Michigan. Stop with
terrible.
Michigan, Joe.
Just
stop going to the window with them.
Terrible.
It's good to see that you have finally backed off going after the system plays. You're finally backing off. You're like, I'm not gonna get in the way. They've been hitting at a pretty decent number. I'm going to stay off of it. But I will say this. Cincinnati has been in this spot a couple times. I know one time they had Texas in there and they ended up losing the game, and it was a system play. So I think they're 1-1 or 1-2 in this spot at home so far during the Big 12 season. So I'm not as high on that one as I was with Texas Tech last night. And I love Marquette tonight, Joe. I do. It's 3.5 on the road at Butler. They lost to them. I think that they're probably going to come out and give you a big effort. Pitt is at Virginia tonight in the ACC. Illinois State, Joe, makes the big board finally because they are ranked for the first time since Larry Bird was there in 78-79, and they're laying 18.5 against the Redbirds of Illinois State. St. John's and Providence, really good game tonight at the Dunk. Important game too, Joe. Both of those teams kind of on that bubble area right now as we're getting a little bit closer to March and tournament time. LSU in Florida. Florida's been playing well, minus 10.5, and Creighton laying a very healthy 19.5 at home against Georgetown.
System play. Pitt plus the points over the Cavs. Pitt plus the points. Could be an outright win. Pitt plus the points. System play. My system.
What's the system there? What's the system for that system?
They play bully ball. They play blue collar. They get under the boards, and we know Virginia laying 6.5 is like any other team laying 15. You know that as well as anybody. I like Pitt. They're athletic. I think they win the ball game outright. Also like the Johnnies a little bit tonight.
Yeah, I like Providence, Joe. I can't play it, obviously, in New York, but I like Providence tonight at home against St. John's. And I like Florida. It's probably a little too big for them, that number, but they've been playing great. And I know coming off hammering Auburn over the weekend, I think the Gators are starting to get things revved up at the right time. Oklahoma at Baylor tonight. These Big 12 games are, Joe, every night Big 12's got great games. It's the best conference in the country. It's unbelievable. UCF is at BYU late night in Provo. Ohio State at Wisconsin tonight. What's that, Joe? 9.5 for the Badgers at home. And Ole Miss at Kentucky. Kentucky, Joe, has lost 3 games in a row at Rupp. Trying not to make it 4 tonight with Chris Beard and the Rebs in town.
I'm going to take Chris Beard and the Rebs plus the 8.5. They don't have to win. They could just cover. I like Wisconsin laying the 9.5, Carver. I know I say that Wisconsin sucks, but Ohio State is even worse. On the road, that's a troubled spot. I think Whiskey could beat them down. My 2 best bets on the board, Whiskey minus the 9.5 and Pittsburgh plus the 6.5 tonight.
How about that total in the Kentucky game too, Joe? 162.5 for Kentucky and Ole Miss tonight. That is a heavy number right there to go after. I know Kentucky plays no D, and they can obviously score, and that's why that number's up there. But I think I might take a little shot with that tonight, Joe, and go after it. And I like Baylor as well. Baylor off losing to Kansas at home against Oklahoma. I'm going to lay the number with the Bears there. All right, I do have a couple of other games, Joe. I'll hold them, and we'll finish the show with those in the final small segment at the end, because you know I love late night Mountain West. We got to have some late night Mountain West games here before we close things out. So we will do that when we come back. Ferrall Coast to Coast here on a Tuesday. Carver High and Joe Lisi in for Scotty. SportsGrid Radio. We will come back. We will finish the college basketball. And yes, we will wrap this puppy up before we head you out after us. We're back on the grid right after this.
$200 million in the state of New York in sports betting, half of that going to the state. All thumbs up, I guess, across the board here, right?
Yeah, New York just continues to be the standard bearer for the industry. People are betting a ton on NFL. We've still got March Madness coming up. This is really the prime time for the U.S. sports calendar with the NFL playoffs, Super Bowl, and then college basketball, NBA, NHL in full swing.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Nikola Jokic is the best player in the NBA until proven otherwise. Like, you have that guy on your team, you win 50 games, it's really that simple.
There is voter fatigue, and I think that is the only thing you have to be careful about when you deal with the NBA is there voter fatigue in regards to who should win the MVP? When you look at the odds, and obviously you can't, no Halliburton.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Scoring 19.7 points per game, 13.1 rebounds, and 8.2 assists. How can a center that is top 50 in scoring, first in rebounding, 7th in assists, and 8th in field goal percentage not make the All-Star team? That is such a huge snub for Domantas Sabonis.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
That's been to a sporting event. The atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
And we're back. Ferrall Coast to Coast here on a Tuesday. Carver High Joe wrapping this one up. All right, Joe, I do have one more board of college games for you tonight because, like I said, it's a very busy night that we went really deep. Louisville is at BC tonight. They're in Chestnut Hill to see the Fighting Bluets right now. BC minus 9.5. Va Tech has FSU coming in at 5.5. And then our late night Mountain West, San Diego State minus 5.5 against Colorado State. And Nevada and New Mexico, Joe, in Reno tonight, minus 1.5 for the Wolfpack. Give me Nevada tonight, Joe. Late night against the Lobos. Let's go.
Yeah, I'm going to go under in that game. 156.5. That's a heavy number for a late night game.
No, it's not late. It's not late night for them, Joe.
I know that, but it's a late night. I like Va Tech tonight. What do you think of Va Tech?
I'm surprised you didn't go over and see. Did you go catch UNLV home last week? You could have went and catch the UNLV game one night.
You're right. In between the 2 hours of sleep from the day before until the 2 hours of sleep that I was getting.
Could have stopped, but instead of getting the big plate of meatballs, you could have went over there and started a little college hoops. Instead of the big plate of meatballs.
I ate like a king while I was there. I'll say that.
I know
it wasn't due to horror. It was,
Joe. We'll have Haro tonight on Carver and Lisi, 8 p.m. East on SportsGrid Radio. Joe will be back with me tomorrow, of course. It's also a Golf Wednesday on C2C. Cam Stewart, Keith Stewart, the Genesis at Riviera. We'll have all the picks for that. We've been hot. Great job, of course, by Mafia and the crew. Great job by Davis, Coach Young, Mike DeCourcy, Gentleman George Kurtz. Great stuff by all. We will have a great night, cash a ton of tickets, lots of NBA, lots of college hoops, lots of hockey. Joe, I'll see you tonight, 8 p.m. East on SportsGrid Radio. Game Time Decisions is next. Ferrall Coast to Coast. Carver, I, and Joe for Scotty. SportsGrid, SportsGrid Radio. Everybody have an outstanding evening. We'll see you tonight on the radio. See you then.